Are y'all ready to explore some more stomp boxes and drum machines and synthesizers? I know I am, and what you're looking here, these 5, are considered to be staples in the guitar world, so let's take a listen to how these are going to work with some other toys. You ready? Let's go. Hello everybody, Chris Klein here with Alma Music Center in San Antonio. And as I stated in the intro, we're going to look at some more pedals today. We've already explored some of the UA pedals, or all of the UA pedals. So today what we want to do is we want to look at some guitar staples from Boss and MXR. Now there's 5 pedals here, and there's 1 bonus in the back, which I'm going to get to at the end because it's really, really strange. So without further ado, let's move ahead and let's start talking about these wonderful pedals. So first up in the queue is Boss's Distortion DS1. I'm sure many of you, even those of you that aren't musicians, have seen these on stages all around the world because this has probably existed in almost every guitar player's arsenal since the late 70s when it first came out. But we're not talking about guitars today. We're talking about synthesizers and drum machines. And so this little pedal right here sounds fantastic on drum machines, and especially Roland's TB303, which is a common staple in dance music, house music, acid house. It just gives it an entirely different life. It's a very simple pedal with tone, level, as well as distortion. You know, you bring this up and it can get really, really crazy. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what this does with a 606, a 303, and a Korg Volca Beats, which I don't have here, but I wanted to include it because it's a budget-conscious drum machine, and it gets just nuts going through this pedal. So let's take a listen. Next up in our lineup is Dunlop's, or the MXR Phase 90. This little orange box is also a staple in guitar rigs all over the world. It was one of Eddie Van Halen's favorites, but we're not talking about guitars again. We're talking about keyboards. I love the elegance of this box because it has just 1 knob and of course your switch. What does the knob do? It turns up the speed of the phaser. What is a phaser? Well, it's kind of like flange, except you're dealing with EQ bands. It's going to accentuate different EQ bands and modulate them. It's a fantastic effect, and we're going to listen to this pedal in tandem with Waldorf Strikefet. It's a string synth, a Mini-Log XD, as well as the 303 once again. So let's take a listen to the Phase 90. And moving along, we have another pedal from Dunlop or MXR, and this one is the Carbon Copy Analog Delay. Another fantastic box. This is a BBD device, or a Bucket Brigade device. It is a true analog delay. Has a lot of character. It's not a super high fidelity delay. It does degrade. It has this kind of cool lo-fi characteristic to it. And it's very, very simple in operation. You have your regen or feedback. You also have your mix, so you can get the balance between the dry and the delayed signal, and then your delay time. And as an added bonus, you have this mod switch, which is going to slightly detune the delay, so it gives the effect a little more character. Now, in this demonstration, I once again have employed both the 606 and the 303, as well as the Korg Volca beats. So let's take a listen to how this is going to change the rhythm of our drum machines, as well as the rhythm of the 303. And as we move along, we're going to explore another Boss pedal. This time we're going to look at the Tremolo TR1, or excuse me, TR2. Tremolo, for those of you that are not familiar with what Tremolo does, it modulates the volume, right? And you can get pretty extreme to where it modulates the volume almost completely, or completely on and completely off, or full volume and then no volume whatsoever, zero amplitude. And you can also change the rate, the speed, and the depth. So the depth is how much of the dynamic range you are going to manipulate when the tremolo circuit is engaged. The rate is how fast. And then, of course, the wave is going to change from triangle to square, excuse me. So you're going to get something like this to something like this. That's really, really extreme. Now, in order to best demonstrate how this works, I have run a couple of synthesizers through it, and I'm going to manipulate the tremolo over time. So I'm going to actually change the rate so you can hear what's happening. And that can actually add to some really, really dramatic effects as well. You know, once again, really popular with guitarists, but I use tremolo plugins quite a bit in the box, and having a pedal to accompany you know, any of the number of synths that I have, as well as my modular rig, excuse me, is really, really nice. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what the tremolo pedal is going to do to our synthesizers. And then last but surely not least, well, kind of, I guess I'm cheating. We're gonna go down here to Boss's Chorus Ensemble. Now, for those of you that don't know what chorus does, chorus slightly detunes your signal and then shifts it in time relative to the dry signal. Basically what it's trying to do is it's trying to create the illusion of there being more than one instrument. It creates immense width, immense depth, and you can manipulate all kinds of parameters like how much it's going to be tuned, the rate of change. Once again, we can actually also adjust the mix. You have the effects level. And there's actually a nice little filter on here as well, so you can manipulate the highs and the lows, or how much you want to cut out of the highs and the lows. This pedal is also stereo. Every other pedal we looked at today has been a mono pedal. But this right here, when you engage it, it really opens up the sound quite a bit, especially if you're dealing with a mono synthesizer signal, maybe a lead or some kind of mono string patch. This is going to add a lot more dimension and a lot more color to it. So let's listen to what happens when we plug a Minilog XD into the Chorus Ensemble. And really, honestly, last but not least, is the Tera Echo. This is a strange pedal. And you know how when your lover says that they want to experiment and get a little crazy? Well, this is what they actually mean. They want this in their life, the Tera Echo. And I had never played with this before, and I struggled with it for a little bit, trying to figure out like, well, how am I going to get keyboards, drum machines to have some kind of impact, or how's this going to have an impact with those devices? And it's hard to describe what this does. It's like a combination of pitch shifting and delay, but depending on how you set the controls, and the controls are limited when you hear what this actually does, you're limited as to how much you can manipulate the controls. And you've got this thing called the spread time, and ultimately, that's what really changes the character of this pedal. And then you have feedback and tone, which is going to, the tone, of course, is going to change the EQ, and feedback is how much it's going to repeat. But the spread time is manipulating all kinds of parameters. The timing of the delay, the way it's being modulated. There's so much happening underneath the hood, and I wish that you could dive into that. You can't, but it's still a cool pedal. Now, I use this with the 606 once again, and I brought the spread time all the way back to 0, or I guess maybe that would be considered 1, and it sounded kind of like a spring reverb, but really the thing that it most sounded like to me was a laser from Star Wars. When the snare hits, you get this doo type of sound. It's really, really cool. And then as you open up the spread time, you get more repeats and, again, more coloration. And, I plugged a couple of synthesizers into here, and I got some really, really interesting effects. I used the Korg Volca keys, which is a really awesome little analog synthesizer with a sequencer, and I got some cool ambient type of soundscapes out of that. I see this being really, or potentially being a really, really popular tool for sound designers, for people that are really into electronic music or that work in audio post, Foley. This could be a really, really cool tool to add to your arsenal. And you could use it as an effect send and return in your DAW, and you could do that with any of these pedals. But this one was just really, really kind of hard to, I'm having difficulty articulating what it really does, and I want you to listen to it, and I want to hear your feedback in the comments below, as well as with all the other pedals. So let's take a listen to the Tera Echo, and let's evaluate and tear apart, if you will, what this pedal is really doing. Here we go. All right, so hopefully we all learned a little something from exploring these pedals and plugging keyboards and drum machines into guitar staples, and especially this one. And really before I close this all out, I want to say happy birthday to this band, New Order. This is from their album Power, Corruption, and Lies, but today, the day that we're shooting this video, their first album, Movement, it has turned 40 years old. And I know for me, bands like New Order and Depeche Mode when I was a kid, they were instrumental into turning me on to synthesizers and music production and effects. And so I just wanted to give them props for still being around, for changing the way that we have made electronic music, and for being innovators, really for more than 40 years, because before New Order, they were Joy Division. So happy birthday to New Order and their groundbreaking album, Movement. And we will now close this out properly. So we looked at Boss MXR pedals today, Boss and MXR pedals, or Dunlop. And we really want to hear more from you about how you feel about these pedals, how you think that they can be pushed even further. We want to get this dialogue rolling in the comments below. Of course, we're going to respond. We're going to react to any sort of compelling ideas you have in regards to pedals and music production with synthesizers and drum machines. We just want to hear more from you because we know that you're full of amazing ideas as well. It's just so much fun to nerd out on all this stuff and take advantage of all this wonderful technology. I should also mention that all these pedals, because we're getting close to that time of the year, would make fantastic gifts for the holidays. These are actually what we would consider to be more budget pedals. And in our next video discussing pedals, we're going to talk about more of the high-end pedals. We're going to be looking at Strymon and some of the other big guns in the industry. But again, hopefully you enjoyed all this. If you're just tuning in, please subscribe. we would like to show you more, and hopefully we can educate each other more in this process. And I think that's all I have for today. Once again, I'm Chris Klein, Alma Music Center in San Antonio. We're going to be back with more, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks a lot, and have a lovely life.